Bitcoin is close to becoming worthless.
Let's go. Now, what's the Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's like rat poison.
Yeah. Oh,
The greatest scam in history.
let's get it.
Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
Yeah.
Alright, you ungovernable misfits. I'm your host, Max. Everybody knows that Bitcoin is useless, worthless, and doomed to fail. But what if everyone's wrong? What if it's the system that is doomed to fail? Join me as I speak to some of the brightest people in the space and slither to the deepest, darkest depths of the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Welcome back, everyone. Today's guest is Antimus. He has been helping Bitcoin Q&A with his monthly updates for a while now, and we thought it'd be really cool to get him on the show, our monthly show together. It's just really nice to see someone giving back. It's really nice to see someone who has found all the work that Bitcoin Q&A has done so useful, and then to decide to help him. And that's what this is all about. If we're going to make Bitcoin work, if we're going to make these mesh tradels work, if we're going to push forward and change the world, we need to all help each other. And yeah, I'm really hyped to be working with Antimus on the monthly shows, and it was really nice to just shoot the shit with him, catch up and get to know him a little bit. So I hope you enjoy the show, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I want to say thank you to CoinFloor UK for sponsoring the show. If you're in the UK and you're looking to stack sats weekly or monthly, you can do that with the link below. It will be in the show notes and you'll get a 30% discount off your fees. I'd also like to thank Crypto Cloaks for sponsoring the show, and you know where to go. It's cryptocloaks.com for all your 3D printing needs, node cases, block mitts and everything else they do on there. It can all be personalized, different colors, lettering, anything you can imagine they can do. Enjoy the show. Hey mate, can you hear me?
I can.
There we go. Welcome to the show. Nice to have you on.
I'm pumped.
You got to tell me how I pronounce your name. It's not the normal type of name. I've got it as Antimus. Is that right?
Antimus, exactly. Yeah. I didn't think that through when I set that up.
Cool. Yeah. Well, welcome, mate. It was nice to speak to you the other day, and for anyone who's listening, Antimus is going to be joining me and Bitcoin Q&A on the next monthly show, and I thought it'd be cool just to get to know you a little bit and talk through your Bitcoin journey and what it is you're doing, so people get introduced to you.
Yeah, man. It's been amazing. Actually, I just had a look again. It was exactly 1 year ago, or it was the 8th of September last year, that I listened to the first episode of your show with Q&A.
Oh, really?
So it's pretty fitting, yeah. Yeah, it was the one on coin joins or something. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was a good one. It's one I still send out to people when people are like asking about bits and pieces. I'm just like, oh, okay, just listen to this one. This is probably the most useful thing you can listen to.
Yeah. I can just give a bit of background. I'm British, but I've been living in Germany for quite some time now. And I kind of, like a lot of people, like education on like finances and the economy and stuff is pretty lacking in schools today, and so I was always like living paycheck to paycheck, and that was always bothering me, but I didn't really take the time to look into personal finance and stuff. so it was a few years ago that I just said, yeah, I gotta change something, gotta do something about it. And a family member then introduced me to like stock investing, and that's how I kind of started like looking into that, and that I got hooked on that pretty fast. But I've quickly noticed that there's just like with the valuations and so on, it's like just brutal, and like realizing that like just like sustainability in the whole system, I couldn't really grasp what was wrong, but something just didn't add up. And then like COVID and March last year hit, and everything went to shit. And and I was at the time I was listening to a few like finance podcasts and stuff, and I was actually on Preston Pysh's podcast. He had a guy on talking about Bitcoin, and that just blew me away. So I took a day to like do a bit of research and see where I could get more information, and quickly stumbled upon like Stephan Livera's podcast, and ordered the Bitcoin Standard. And obviously, like on Stephan Livera's podcast, I didn't understand a word. I was like, "What is going on?" But the Bitcoin Standard obviously was pretty approachable, and especially like the whole concept around time preference was just really intuitive, but something I hadn't really thought about a lot. Like also like the impact of inflation on like time preference of people. Yeah, so from that point on, it would just it took a life of its own, stumbling from one to the next, and buying first Bitcoin and withdrawing to Samurai Wallet with mobile mixing and setting up a node, and that's how the journey began. Yeah, crazy.
You've dived in very quickly, and you found the right people very quickly. It sounds like it's not easy, not plain sailing for anyone, but if you can find the right people like Preston, people like Q&A, and obviously Stephan Livera. Although, I had a similar experience early on. I listened to every single Stephan Livera pod, and honestly, like at least 80% of it, I was like, what the fuck is that? What do you mean? I don't know what that is. I don't get that reference. I don't. And just slowly but surely, by listening enough and reading enough, you eventually, it all starts to click into place. But they're the right resources to go for. They're the people that are going to guide you well.
Absolutely. I mean, I've heard so many stories of people like going through detours with shitcoining or now NFTs and the ICOs. I mean, I missed all of that, but I mean, they're just so lucky to have such inspiring voices at the beginning as well. And I remember at the beginning like writing lists of just terminology or different things that I didn't understand from the podcasts, just like as a to-do list to go through again at some point to just understand what these things mean. And working through that then is actually amazing to then how fast you do pick up on different stuff, and that actually most of it I didn't have to research again, but just staying with it and listening to as much as you can, and reading is just hugely beneficial.
I think it's easy when something is as interesting as Bitcoin, because it's like multi-layered, isn't it? Firstly, you're thinking like, oh, I'm going to be really fucking rich from this, which is exciting. That is definitely a big part of it, especially in the beginning. You're like, fuck, I'm going to be so rich. And if it does what it's done before, oh my God, you're doing all the calculations. You're like, shit, this is going to change my life. So that is something that pulls you in. And then you start layering on top of that, like, okay, well, this is actually going to change the world, and it's going to give me freedom, and all those things that have been nagging me in the back of my mind for so long, they're starting to make sense. And these are the people behind it. They're the ones fucking with me. And then you want to destroy them. And you're like, okay, well, how do I destroy them? This is the only way. And so everything starts coming back to Bitcoin. Everything starts making sense the more you dig in, and that is like an addictive. Well, it is literally like a drug, and I think that's why you can consume the amount of information that you've consumed, because it's a very short space of time that it's taken you to now. You know, the reason I've got you on the show now, and what you're helping Bitcoin Q&A with is like you're already at the stage where you're giving back to the community. You're already at the stage where you're going to be impacting new Bitcoiners' lives, and you're going to be helping them find what they need to find and get the updates they need. So it's really impressive, mate. Like it's very rare to find someone who's done it as quickly, and somebody who also is giving enough to spend the time rather than mining fiat to actually give back.
Yeah, well, it's amazing to hear, but I'd say it's a credit to all the people in the community putting out such amazing content. Because I mean, I've heard that like a few years back, there's just the landscape for education was just completely different. And I mean, obviously, I didn't experience that, but just over the last year, I've already seen so much development. But even at that time, there was so much content out there. That I just like, for the life of me, I couldn't like absorb all of it. Yeah, that's just that's been amazing. And especially, I think like the real moment where it really clicked for me was when I started listening to TFTC and especially Matt, because I've always been like really. Like personal responsibility and accountability has always been really important to me, and having the opportunity to live your life as private as you want to, and have that ability to selectively reveal oneself, and that was. But I hadn't made that connection even after like reading into Bitcoin for a while. That really hit home when listening to Matt talking. And just this concept of it's like Jesus died for somebody's sins, but not mine. You know, it's I want to own my failures, but also my accomplishments, and that's something that Bitcoin really ensures. It's your own responsibility, and if you don't put in the work, and if you lose your seeds, there's no one to help you.
Yeah, it's brutal. But both ways, you know, it's that old like with great power comes great responsibility, and it is great power that it's giving, like the ability to almost freeze time that would otherwise be stolen from you, and the ability to have complete control over your money and your information and your ability to send it anywhere and communicate with people and all the things that it frees up. I think, you know, it is a superpower, but it's like one you have to go and train for. It's like you can be Superman, but you've got to go to the gym like 8 hours a day and train like a fucking animal, because, you know, it's not actually simple to learn this stuff. And I mean, I'm sure you're much more technical than I am, given what you're doing with Q&A, but regardless of how technical you are or what background you've had, like you've got to put the work in, and to use these tools is hard. They're constantly changing. There's risk everywhere. You can't progress without actually some risk or pushing yourself a little bit further than you feel comfortable with. Otherwise, you just stay stagnant, and it's a really difficult balance, and it's quite tiring. Have you found your time in Bitcoin has aged you at all? That's often the case.
No, I think it's been really inspiring and like invigorating, but it has consumed a lot of time. I definitely say that, and I think also like over this last year, it's been amazing to see like the developments. Like a year ago, I was thinking of setting up multisig with Electrum, and like then shortly afterwards, Spectre came out, and then Sparrow, obviously, and all these things have just made it so much easier. But obviously, you have to stay committed to follow all of these developments to be able to take advantage of them, which is obviously the most tiring, but also the value of what Bitcoin Q&A has been doing with the monthly updates. I mean, that makes it a lot easier to just jump in once a month and get up to speed without having to follow every development, all the time.
So is that how it came about? You were already reading through the monthly, and then you reached out to him to help, or how did it?
No, it's actually I think Q&A started his Bitcoiner.guide about the time when I started getting into Bitcoin at all, and when I think on Stefan Livera's podcast he mentioned, or he had someone from Samurai on, so that was the first wallet I got. And then I was having a few issues and wanted to read up a bit more on the technical part. And that's when I stumbled on his website. I was aware of that very early on, and helped me out hugely. And then throughout the last year, I'd reached out to him a few times because I just had a few issues here and there, like the usual few things that come up, and then it was I think now in March this year that I thought I wanted to be more active in the community anyway, and I wanted to kind of contribute back, but I didn't quite know how, because my background is more in like mechanical engineering, so not too many opportunities. But I thought because I'm bilingual, I could do some translations for Q&A. So that's when I reached out and started doing a few translations for his articles. And I mean, he's an amazing dude. I mean, it's been great just getting to know him a bit. And then he reached out and asked if I'd want to help out with the monthlies, and that's great.
Well, I know it's lifting a big weight off his shoulders. I know time is. He's a weird man. I mean, he manages to get more done than anyone. I think
crazy. I mean, the amount of content, dude.
Really productive. I'm pretty sure he's either a vampire or he really is a robot. I'm not exactly sure, or like a mix of the two, because it's his productivity is like ridiculous. But at the same time, everyone has their limits, and I know that like he really was being stretched to his limits, and it's just cool that you've reached out and that you're helping in this way. It's really nice to see people give back, because it's actually quite rare. Like so many people come in, they soak up all the content, they go, "Oh, I'm a genius, I bought Bitcoin and now I've made money," and then they never really give back, and that's a shame. It's this thing grows with people helping each other, and what I find is once you dive in and once you give back a little bit, you will get so much more from helping, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, he's someone who's actually here for the cause," and then that is paid forward, and people will help and help and help. And it's something I've found with doing this show is, constantly I've got some issue and I need help, and there's always someone there with their time, and that's a really special thing. And then you do sort of have these friendships that form out of it. It can be friendships that form out of something as stupid as like, "Oh, I can't update this node and I'm having a problem," or "It's not syncing," and then someone's like, "Oh, I'll help with that," and then you end up on the phone for a couple of hours, and you realize that actually you've got a lot in common, and you become good friends, and it's nice. Like it's a good place to meet real proper people who care about more than like just the the shit that people talk about day to day.
Yeah.
I know you're not in the UK anymore. I don't know if it's any different where you are now. I don't want to dox you, but do you find that stepping outside of Bitcoin is a different world?
Yeah. I mean, here, well, I'm in Germany. That's fine to say.
Cool.
And obviously, like in my like circle of friends and my family and so on. I mean, there's no one like I'm like the Bitcoin guy, as most of us are. But so obviously, like the talking points quickly, you reach a limit on the technical part, but I'm extremely grateful for like the surroundings I have here, like on a relationship level. So I've got the right people here, definitely. But generally, in Germany, it's been going up and down over the last year. There are definitely worse places to be, but there are also developments that are more than concerning. So we'll see. I've kind of personally drawn a few lines, and we'll see if they get like overstepped in a major way.
When, not if, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, but we know where it's going. But have you thought about that at all? Like, obviously we're in cyberspace and we do all our Bitcoin stuff, and we all interact over the internet and Telegram groups and all the rest of it. But you do still have to live in the physical world to some extent. Have you considered that you might move, or have you considered, like, have you given much thought to, I know you're a more technical guy, but like, have you thought about this whole Citadel or Meshtadel theory, and have you got any thoughts on it?
Yeah, not too much. I think like most of the generally I really like the idea of like small communities, being like in like having like a more sustainable surrounding, being in contact with like the community. I'm just not sure at this point, if that really solves the bigger issues that we have with surveillance, or different like the whole monopoly of violence. I mean, that's at the end of the day what's driving this whole thing, and just having a plot of land with a few people. I don't know if that really eliminates that, but I don't think that would be my goal going into something like that. I just really like the idea of having like a tight knit community, and having land be amazing. Just having space. I mean, I've lived in cities most of my life, which has been amazing, and I really love it. But I also do feel like a longing for space as well, and just opportunity to build things and
that's the thing, is like, if you got some land, if it's out the way, if you have a project, something you want to build, something you want to do, you just do it. And it's this whole permissionlessness that we have online. You then step back into the real world and you're like, fucking hell, I can't move without filling out a form, or someone telling me I can't do something, or, getting planning for this, or, whatever it is. And it's just like, why can't I just build cool shit? And then, like, if it goes wrong and I blow myself up, then so be it, that's personal responsibility. But it's just like, the world is not shaped that way. I guess there are some places, like Texas seems to be a little bit more like that, and there's a few little places where you have a bit more freedom, but even then it's not quite as you'd want it. But then it's just, a case of accepting that is how it is for now, and using these tools so that we do keep our freedom for as long as we can, and hope that, like you say, this monopoly on violence, we have a way to fight it without guns. We're using maths, we're using cryptography,
Exactly.
to fight it, which is smart, because you're never going to win
No.
when it comes to the weapons and everything that they have, and the power that they have. It's just it's an absolute joke. You're never gonna fight them like that. So, what's your thoughts on the tools for someone who's stepping in? Like, I imagine you're the annoying Bitcoin guy who's trying to tell everyone to get involved, and they say, yeah, and I know they'll just say, oh, fuck off, I don't care. But if they didn't, if someone went, yeah, that sounds interesting, like freedom actually sounds pretty cool, what advice would you give? Like, what's in your toolkit that you'd say, get this, and these are the best tools? Do you have a sort of like selection that you'd advise?
Yeah, I think like everything, it's kind of a scale, and you have to start somewhere. I think the most important thing is like incremental steps, and not being overwhelmed by having or feeling like I know a lot of people who have that sense of like, I'm giving up my data. I'm not quite sure who has access to what, and just not being overwhelmed by that, and just I personally just made a list of things that I wanted to change and said, okay, I'll do one a month, and just switched my messaging app from WhatsApp to, first it was Signal, but I'm using Threema now. That's my favorite. And then also with things like email, going to Proton or Tutanota, or just using a different browser. Those are just small things that do make a difference. And sure, I mean the whole, my next step is getting a new phone with Calyx, which obviously is, for a lot of people, is a big step. I definitely understand that, and I think that it may not be one of the first things to do. And then obviously switching to Linux. Those are all definitely bigger projects. But I think the main thing is just like communication, which we do mostly over social media and messaging apps, which is actually hardly a hassle switching. Like the user experience on these more sovereign apps is amazing. And there's it's only the network effect, but that has shifted also in the last year with a lot of people going to Signal.
Do you ever find like you get a bit overwhelmed by it? Obviously, you're saying I'll do one thing per month, but do you ever get overwhelmed in terms of like the order of things? And when I say the order of things, like, I'll give you an example. Like, I've ordered this new Linux laptop, this Starbook, which I've been waiting forever to actually come. And so in my head, I'm like, right, once that arrives, then I'm going to do XYZ, because I want to start fresh. So, for example, like, I'm running Spectre at the moment, but I want to try Sparrow. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to put it on this MacBook when I'm just about to change and fuck around. I want to just start fresh with something completely new, and I don't want to do it until I have that. And then it's like, well, I want to get this phone so that I can put Calyx on it, because I'm running what's it called, Graphene at the moment on a Pixel 3a, which is just like, yeah, it's fine just for like Samurai and stuff, but I don't use it as my daily. Whereas and then like there's these things that then pop up. It's like, okay, well, how do I get one of these without having my IMEI linked to my identity? Okay, well, I'm going to go and get a load of
gift cards, and I'm going to pay in cash, and I'm going to use a mask, and I'm going to get them from different shops, and I'm going to do it over the course of a few days or weeks so that there's no traceability. And then it's like, well, I've got all them. I've got enough money on these gift cards that I can go into an Argos and go and buy one of these phones. And then it's fucking sold out everywhere. So literally the entire country, there's not one single Argos in the entire country that you can buy one of these. Actually, that's not true. There's one somewhere in Scotland. It's like 350 miles away. And so I'm like, so it seems like there's always like something in the way, and it's very annoying, because then it's like, okay, yeah, I can go and download a new messaging app and I can do that, but do I really want to do it on an iPhone? No, I want this new phone so I can do it, or I want my laptop, but that's still not arriving. Do you ever get sort of, do you get what I mean? And you ever just think like, oh fuck, I've just got to wait? Or do you just get on with it and then go, well, I'll iterate?
With software, I usually just do it, because I've got most of. I mean, I'm still running Windows, which is
oh god,
fucking shit. Yeah.
You're going to be nailed to the cross for that. You shouldn't have admitted it.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm still waiting to pull the trigger on a new laptop. So I with software stuff, I usually just jump in and just try out stuff. And I've got like one Pi where I've just like flashed different nodes onto just to play around a bit. And next to I started off with a MyNode and now got a Ronin Dojo. Those are the two running full time. I've just played around with the others, and also with other wallet softwares and stuff, just to see what developments there are. But with hardware, I find it difficult, especially because there's obviously a cost to that as well. Just buying some laptops or buying a whole bunch of nodes or hardware wallets and stuff. You could either be stacking or you could be buying all this stuff.
It's the trade-off, isn't it? It's so hard.
So like last year, I went all in basically on Cold Card, but now obviously I've been tempted with Foundation devices, and I don't know what the new name of was it
Passport?
No, the other one that switched names because they kind of split up. The other
Bitbox?
No, it's a big one. What was the name of it?
Trezor? Ledger?
It's the one left.
It's
it's
like Kobo
Keystone.
Vault?
Yeah, exactly. And that they changed names to like Keystone, Stone something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that. I was eyeing that one for a while as well. Yeah, but that's something I still have to get round to.
Or the DIY ones, Seed Signer or Spectre DIY or something like that.
Exactly. I've already got the parts for the Seed Signer. I've got to do that, assemble that. It's an amazing project. It's been really cool to see how fast they've pulled that off. That's been amazing. So especially on the hardware side, that's where I struggle more. And also putting in the time, because obviously once you start with something like that, you want to get it finished, you want to get it up and running, and that usually takes quite a bit longer than you'd expect.
Yep. That is definitely true, but it's worth it. And I guess that's the message you've got to get out to people stepping into the space, is like, it's all worthwhile. And if you could go back in time, you always wish, fuck, I wish my privacy was a bit better. I wish I hadn't done this. I wish I hadn't done that. And we all make mistakes and trip up. And it just takes time to get better. But it's almost like it should be the starting point, really. It should be, we'll come in and buy some Bitcoin and then learn how to use it as privately as possible. I think what's difficult is people just come in and they're looking at the price and they are seeing this as an investment, and therefore that's where their energy and time goes, because it's like, right, I need to make sure, firstly, like, am I right? Am I betting the farm on something that's a scam? Or, is this actually something that is going to be a good investment? And you have to do that because you have to protect your time. And at the same time, you don't realize how important your privacy is and how important all of this stuff is until you go down the rabbit hole for most people. And so it's always
or
this
until
sort of,
it's too late.
yeah, well,
That's the other
exactly.
thing. Yeah. That's exactly the problem for a lot of people. That once you actually notice the implications of having lost your privacy, it's mostly too late. Once a lot of these profiles that have been set up, I mean, even if you don't give them any more data, they're pretty accurate anyway. So I think there is a place for, like, I mean, this whole trade-off between, like, being vigilant about it and only onboarding people to no KYC and being really strict from day one is, I think, has a place for a lot of people who have been thinking about this or have these concerns even before they got into Bitcoin. But I think it's just too much of a leap for a lot of people, or for most probably. And obviously it'd be amazing also for me personally to look back and say there's no KYC record anywhere, but that ship sailed. But especially Bisq is huge, and that is one of the most important projects in the space, I think. And it's been amazing to see over the last months how many new users have been coming in. That's been pretty amazing, especially now since we've got out of the slump a month ago. It's been pretty crazy. How many new users with young accounts and unsigned accounts have been coming in. That's been really great. That was one question I wanted to ask you. What your feeling is with this whole, like what Jack's doing, like with these whole announcements with decentralized exchanges, and also hardware wallet development and so on. Like, do you buy that?
Believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I don't really pay that much attention to these sort of things anymore, because time has sort of taught me that 90% of what these announcements are and people saying they're going to do things, either it doesn't happen at all, or they underdeliver, or they're captured in some way. And so it's kind of like, I like to just use the tools that I think are best at the time and not really worry until something comes out, because otherwise you just spend your whole life sort of either hyping yourself up about something that doesn't happen or putting off using anything at all. I mean, my personal views, I know like loads of people really hate Jack and they sort of dunk on him all the time and everything, but my personal view, just from the interactions that I've seen with him on certain podcasts and the way that he speaks about Bitcoin, seems to me like he does actually care. But there are some weird things that he does as well, and like it's not all completely congruent. So I think with anyone who's got one foot heavily planted in the legacy financial system, they've got some sort of noose around their neck. And I feel that he definitely does. So, yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath on that one.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on it?
Exactly. I mean, I think that, especially like with the hardware wallet, that might be a more difficult thing because that is very much led by them. I think this whole idea of like decentralized systems and platforms is because if I'd put myself in his shoes, and I actually do have the beliefs that he claims to have, but do have also restrictions through my corporate position. The only opportunity I have to make a difference is to build decentralized systems that I afterwards cannot control. And that's what, at least on the surface, he's kind of doing with his social media platform, and now maybe with this exchange. Obviously, I think the best approach is to give credit when it actually happens.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think under the circumstances, that would also be the only way. I wouldn't trust anything that would come out of Square or Twitter that is still under their control. So yeah, we'll wait and see.
They all sort of end up bending the knee at some point.
And even if they don't at the beginning, at some point they could, if they still have that power.
Yeah, but then at the same time, it's like, I mean, if you put yourself in his shoes for a minute, like really put yourself in his shoes, if he didn't care, why carry on? Why do what he's doing? Because he could just tomorrow go, fuck this, I'm going to go and buy an island and I'm just going to chill on the beach for the rest of my life. Like literally, like that bloke never has to work ever again, and he can live just the most unbelievable life. It does seem like he is captivated by this technology, and it does seem that he wants change. So it might not be exactly how we want to do it, but then at the same time, he can't move like we move. You know, he's got the whole world watching, and it's the same with, like, you know, like Michael Saylor and all these guys, and it's like a lot of people, oh yeah, you know, Michael Saylor's gonna be amazing. Oh look, he's this god, he's this genius, and it's like, just wait, you know, just see. He's going to bend the knee. He's going to do things you're not going to like, and they all do. And you know, I think probably most people would in their situation. So that's why, like on this show, I try and spend my time getting people on who are actually building and doing and pushing forward, like from the ground level, and actually making changes that are literally happening. You know, and that's what I find interesting. The rest of it is a little bit kind of like, I don't know, not pointless, but a bit, it feels like a bit of a waste of energy.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can understand that.
So what's the stuff that's really grabbing your attention at the moment? Are there any projects that are on your list, or anything that you're really excited about?
Well, there are a few smaller developments, one thing was Diverter brought out a guide a few months back on like Xpub support for Whirlpool, that you can then basically just straight from Postmix set a certain amount of rounds and have your UTXO sent directly to a predetermined address, or to address derived from the Xpub, which would be absolutely amazing. Those are smaller things, but obviously the huge news on that front was Sparrow integrating or planning to integrate Whirlpool. I think that's been talked about for a while, that is an opportunity that other wallets can integrate, but it didn't seem to catch much attention, and that news was huge. And I think if that works successfully, and they can actually, if like a liquidity actually comes in from Sparrow, I think that could open a lot of doors for a lot of other wallets to integrate as well, and that would be the ultimate goal.
It would be fucking amazing, and if anyone can do it, Craig can do it. Like he's something else. And I think, you know, we talk about you don't get hyped about things that haven't happened yet and all this sort of stuff, but he doesn't strike me as the sort of man who says he's going to do something and not. Like he doesn't fuck about.
And he came out of nowhere, and like the sophistication of the wallet, like from day one, was crazy. I mean, it's like opening it up was just like, boy. And then since then, there's been so much put in. He's been churning out a lot.
Do you have a preference, Spectre over Sparrow? Not that it's a competition, but you know that you just personal preference.
I mean, because I'm using I've got a MyNode as a like daily node for Lightning and stuff. I have Spectre on that, so I use that most of the time. I have Sparrow on my laptop just to double check receive addresses and stuff. But I think if Sparrow were on my node, I'd prefer that. I like the word workflow better, and it's a bit more. I really like the trade-off between like simplicity, but also having very granular control if you want to, and it does a good job of obfuscating a lot, but giving you the necessary information and the option to look into more.
It's I still haven't played with Sparrow yet. I'm still running Spectre, but like I say, when I get this laptop, it's something I want to run. It does seem that a lot of people maybe will start with Spectre, and then when they want a little bit more functionality, then they go across to Sparrow. But I mean, personally, my feeling with Spectre is it's fucking amazing. Like I really enjoy using it. I think the interface is like incredibly slick. It's really user friendly, and it was quite a big jump up because I started using that as soon as I got the cold cards, and before that, I mean, I should never admit to this, but I was using fucking Ledger and their disgusting software, and I had a couple of Trezors and I was using their stuff, and you know, it wasn't linked to a node, and that's the way that I was doing it. And then once I got this set up, I was like, wow, this feels like a step up. Like this is so much better. And getting into address labeling. I mean, I didn't even know about UTXO management for ages. Like 2018, I would just bought loads and loads of ledgers, and then every time that I stacked or bought, especially if I was buying in cash, then I would just use a brand new ledger. And then because I didn't know about UTXO management, so I've got like I've got like 20 Ledger Nano S's because I was like, well, I don't know what to do here. And I knew enough that I was like, I don't want to mix. Like, I don't want to buy from somewhere and then this that I've bought with cash then goes to that, because I knew that then it's trackable. So I was like, well, what do I do? And so I'd sit there and write out my 24 words and then link that up and then label that. And I had little folders with different ones. And that's how I did it.
Oh. Yeah, well, that would come in handy now. The Seed Mint, the guy. Yes. That is also an amazing project, man. That's wonderful.
Seed Mint's really cool.
Yeah, come in handy if you have to like stamp out like 20 seeds. You want one of those.
Yeah, it was literally how I was doing it. But that's the thing, is like, and then you use something like Spectre, and you're just like, well, this is better, isn't it? Because I can just fucking label something, and it's actually segregated. It's like, I'm talking about segregation. Oh god, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talk about segregation at the moment. It's not the right word. Separation, maybe, of these UTXOs, and it's just incredible. And it does make me think, like, where does this stuff go moving forward? Like, when do we get to a stage? I know it's kind of there, but when do we get to a stage where it's like you have your node running, and then there's a really slick interface which you have access via your mobile and your laptop, and everything runs over Tor, and you have your mobile mixing. You have your Whirlpool mixing, but you can spend from there, like all in one slick interface, and it kind of feels like we're not that far away from that. It's still a little bit ropey. It's still, you've got to piece bits together a little bit.
Yeah, and especially because obviously UTXO management and labeling is not logged on the blockchain, so you've got to keep separate backups for that. Just recovering from a seed in 10 years won't help you. You need that information to go along with that, and that's something I think that can be improved as well, to somehow make it easier to back up that and to transfer that from one wallet to another, interoperability there, and just making that more intuitive, because that is essential information. If you've been putting in the work now to do all of that, it's basically the same thing also with Whirlpool, and having coin joined your UTXOs. You have to kind of still know what you did in 10, 15 years, or the whole idea of inheritance as well. Of like, I think there is still a lot of room for improvements to get that sorted, and more intuitive. I think like in the last years, or especially the last year, like the technical developments have been amazing, like from just especially on things like multisig, just how much user friendly that is. But I think still on backups and interoperability, I think that's still something that I struggle with every now and again. Keeping all that, staying on top of all of that.
It's no easy thing to do. I had the other night like a massive scare because I went to set up the passport, actually, because Spectre has just said, we've got this new release, and now you can use the passport with Spectre, and I was like, right, it's about time I set this thing up. So I sat down, like cleared a bit of time. I was like, right, I'm going to do this evening. And then so I went to open up my Spectre, and I was like, right, why is this not fucking opening? Like it just wouldn't open. I was like, right, that's really weird. Kept trying, another 20 minutes, kept trying, no, restart the computer, all that, wouldn't open. I was like, for fuck's sake. Check my MyNode that it's linked to. That, I don't know what had happened, but it was like really behind on blocks, and it was like trying to sync but wouldn't sync. And I was like, I literally turned this thing on to back it up, and now I can't back it up because I can't access it. What if I've now lost this because the only backup I have is like of 2 months ago or whenever it was, and I've done so many more transactions, I've done so much labeling, I've done so many things that have hopefully helped improve my privacy, and now I had this feeling where I was like, that was all fucking pointless, and I've now lost all those labels, and that is a horrible feeling. And so like I kind of think it would be nice if you could have something where maybe you run two in parallel, where you have like Spectre and Sparrow, and somehow you can have all the labels across both of them, and then you do your backups across both of them, because then if one goes down and for some reason you can't access it again, you're not fucked. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've set for myself just time periods where I force myself to do backups of everything and to check everything, which is just a huge. I mean, it takes up loads of time. I've had a few situations where it's been massively valuable. Samurai does it really well with the mobile wallet, with the automatic backups. I've had to set it up so many times, and it's been flawless. That's been amazing. But especially like the node packages and so on, that would definitely be something that would be really beneficial to have. The option to set up automatic backup systems to storage that you choose yourself. And I mean that's something I think that Ronin wants to implement as well, with like RAID setup. And that would also be a huge step up, but obviously with cost as well.
But it's so key, isn't it? And that's very German of you, like putting aside like time where you go, I'm going to do my backups and then check my backups, and I'm taking more of the English approach, which is like only really decide to do your backups once you've already lost everything and you're fucked. That's when you start actually reacting.
I've had my fair share of confused passphrases and lost seed phrases there. That was tough lessons, and a lot of sweat and tears at the beginning, putting my first chunk on a mobile wallet on Samurai, and then a backup the seed phrase didn't work importing. Boy, that killed me. It was about for a day. It worked out at the end, but boy, that was rough. And at that point, then you suddenly notice that you're having noted everything and stuff is just not sufficient. You have to be really detailed, and just taking the time at the beginning to mark everything is so valuable.
And it's about like clearing not only time but space. Like I find if you're not in a like clean, tidy, like the right environment at the right time, it's easy to make mistakes. You need to really, really have everything clear, and then decide, right, I'm going to stamp this seed, and then I'm going to make another second copy, and then I'm going to make sure that I know everything that I need to note down. And it's very, very time consuming, but once you've done it in that environment where it's like tidy and clean, you do feel a lot better, because otherwise it's kind of, you're like, well, did I write that down properly? Like, is it actually going to be safe? Like, have I actually done things properly? And did I actually check that back up? Did I delete it and then start from fresh and recover the wallet, and did that work? Well, no, I didn't. Okay, well, how am I going to sleep then? So it's about like allowing yourself to be at peace and feel comfortable. And I think, this is what you said at the beginning about like step by step doing one thing every month is really good advice, because it's easy to get yourself in a right fucking muddle if you try and do everything all at once.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I think like my biggest resource there was Q&A and his guides. That's been just such detail and just extensive write-ups. It's been amazing. Just before diving into everything, just having the opportunity to read through that and just like get a feel for what's required to actually set it up and what you'd need before, and get everything set up, and then go through step by step and not like stumbling through and making mistakes that you'll regret at some point. That's been absolutely amazing. Yeah.
And do you have any views on single sig versus multi-sig? And if so, like, do you have like a preferred method of storing the data?
Well, I think single sig with a strong passphrase is that's most of it. I mean, I think that's sufficient in most cases. I'd like to. I mean, I've played around with setups of multi-sig, but I haven't made the switch completely yet. And the main thing holding me back is just backup locations. Getting that sorted out, because I don't want to like rely on like safety deposit boxes or stuff like that. So I want to get those locations down and get that whole setup figured out before I actually do the switch. And for a long time, I knew that I wanted to do it with at least 3 different vendors of hardware wallets, and up till now that was pretty difficult. I remember reading Michael Flaxman's guide on multisig, which was really amazing. Definitely recommend anyone looking into that to have a read through that. But there also he said, I mean, it's pretty thin on the opportunities or the options for hardware wallets. And now with the Passport and also with Seed Signer, that's no excuse anymore. So that now opened the door to do that. So that's next on my list as well. So I think it does like raise you to another level of like comfort and peace, knowing that there are additional like fail safes as well. Just knowing you can lose one in a 2 or 3, or even 2 in a 3 or 5. That would be personally for me a huge that would calm me down.
I think you're right. I think that is sort of like the gold standard, especially with the multi-vendor, multi-sig. I think that's key. And then, like, what's your thoughts? Say you were going to do it, would you actually then ever feel comfortable with one multi-sig setup? Because the way I view it is, it's like, well, if you do that, you have all your eggs in one basket. And yes, I know that obviously, you know, if you lose 1 or 2 in a 3 or 5, whatever, you should be okay. But I always think, like, well, what if there's like something that I've missed or I've not done, or like, you know, some way that I can't actually get these funds, then I've lost everything. Whereas I kind of like not having all my eggs in one basket and like splitting risk. And so would you ever consider going, well, I have 2 separate multi-sig setups, or would you feel comfortable enough just going, no, I have one?
I think it depends on obviously the amount. So I think like the step from a 2 or 3 to a 3 or 5, that would be sufficient for me. If I'd say, okay, I'll go all in, I think a 3 or 5 would be sufficient for me. But that obviously depends on a lot of variables, including the backup locations, like how confident am I in these backup locations? How often can I do like checks? How confident am I with the security there, and that I will have access to any at any time? And then also, like with inheritance, do I have people in my family or close friends that have the technical ability to actually gain access? And if I have 3 or 4 setups of a 2 or 3, that makes it quite a lot more complicated to pass that on, even if 3 or 5. But that might be, if it's still one wallet, I think that does make it a lot easier. So I think, the personal situations for everyone are a bit different. I think for me, I'd start off with a 2 or 3 and then level up to a 3 or 5, or maybe keep things, a certain portion on the 2 of those. But I wouldn't like do 3, 4, 5, 10 different 2 or 3 setups. I think that would get quickly pretty complicated.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other one that I really, really would love to do, but I know that I'm too dumb for it, is the just memorizing. And I know like there's like massive warnings about it. And everyone's like, don't fucking do that. And I'm like, well, trust me, I can't. But can barely remember what day it is most of the time. So, you know, that's not for me. But have you got any thoughts on that? Like, even if there was a backup, and the reason I ask is like, I think anyone paying attention knows that shit is going to go badly in the next year to 2 years. Like, it's not unreasonable to think that at some point people are going to have to flee countries or seriously leave everything behind. And if it had to happen quickly, then it's like, well, you know, what if you don't have time to go to the 5 different locations, or sorry, 3 of your 5 locations, and then how do you transport it? What do? You make one transaction, and then like that's a PSBT or something, and then you keep that on a micro SD card and shove that up your ass. I mean, like, what do you do? And so the idea of like having your seed words in your head, if you could remember them, feels quite powerful. But obviously it's difficult, and it doesn't seem like, I know some people have done like really clever shit where they've got different servers running and they've got, you know, a passphrase over here and some words over here, and they've got to get through layers and layers and layers of encryption to get to it and all this stuff. But I'm like, you know, that's not for me. What's your thoughts on that? Like, in terms of, you have to flee tomorrow, you got to go. What do you do?
Well, I mean, that is the power of Bitcoin, isn't it? You have that option. And I mean, the people are fleeing their countries. I mean, we're seeing that around the world, millions of people, and that gives them at least that option. For me, I talk in my sleep, so that's a problem. I think if I recite things too often, that would be a problem. But if I can definitely see the value in that. I mean, that is also one of the like advice that people give, to put to select your backup locations in different jurisdictions as well, so that you, even if you do have an issue in one jurisdiction, you can still get to the others. Obviously, that comes with a high cost as well. If you do have to just check your backups regularly, or do want to do that gets pretty expensive pretty quickly.
Round the world trip.
Exactly. And that obviously also depends on the amount you're storing. I think that, like, because like 24 words, memorizing that,
and the passphrase,
and a passphrase, that can definitely, I mean, you can definitely do it for I mean, probably not, I wouldn't do it as like a for like life savings and retirement account, but if you really have to flee a country or cross a border, you can definitely do it. And yeah, I think for a lot of people, it can be beneficial to just maybe memorize half of them just as a exercise, and when push comes to shove, you do the rest. But I don't know. I think personally, I'd still take the risk of having some kind of documentation hidden on me or in me when crossing a border, at least for part of the secret, than having like a single point of failure, just my memory. I mean, the situations can be very different, and if it's severe enough, that's your only option, maybe.
Yeah, weird place to take it. I just sort of crosses it crosses my mind quite often at the moment. So
No, but I mean, there are a lot of people around the world who are in exactly that situation. Even if they're not fleeing directly, they maybe do not have a secure location to back up their seeds, and that is a very powerful. Powerful like concept, that you do have that opportunity to save it in your head.
It's true sovereignty. It's like you are literally walking around with all your wealth. Like you don't need anything else. But obviously, then you have to trust your memory, and like human memory is pretty shabby, to be honest. Even someone with good memory, you only have to fall over and knock your head or whatever. It can go very, very wrong very quickly. So the whole like having a backup thing is definitely key. I'm sure something will be worked on that helps with all these sort of things. It seems that this space just moves at such a rapid rate. Imagining what's going to be a possible in sort of 5 years really sort of boggles my mind. I don't know what is going to happen. Have you got any thoughts of like trends that you're seeing or things that you're imagining that aren't quite there yet but you think will be?
No, not too well. I think that turning back on different developments is going to be very difficult, especially on like surveillance, on like information collecting. Those are things that I think is not going to be realistic to like slowly just turn back, and come to a state that we had 20, 30 years ago. Especially like the like getting rid of cash. That's something that I think is worrying.
Yeah.
Because that has just been a tool for a lot of people, and just to be able to choose when to pay with cash and when to pay with a card, and so this whole concept of selectively revealing oneself, and having the power to choose when and where, and it's not secrecy. It's just there might be just things, especially with medical situations or books that I buy, where I maybe just prefer to have that stay private, and having the tool like cash has been incredibly valuable, and seeing that being slowly phased out, I think is a huge loss.
Do we become? Sorry,
no, sure.
Go on.
Yeah, seeing the developments in Australia, especially, that's been tough. Seeing things like passport verification for social media.
So fucked.
Yeah, that's crazy. And just like this whole concept, I think like the internet is actually such a young technology, that I think we've kind of been living like for the last 30 years. We've kind of been living in a world where still a lot on the internet is not regulated, and I think we'll see that being decimated over the next years, and that's where encryption comes in, and open source software is so crucial, that we have that community and that ecosystem of people building things decentralized, and organizing themselves to build these tools and to further develop them is absolutely crucial.
And do you think that Lightning is going to play a part in that? I know that a lot of the sort of privacy community, there's quite a split. A lot of people, especially in the samurai groups and stuff, and are really not interested in Lightning. Do you have any views on it? And do you think that it plays a part in this ability to get outside of this like regulation that's going to come down on the internet?
I think it will definitely have a role. I don't have a too negative view on Lightning. I think it is an attack vector for government regulation, for like routing nodes to be viewed as payment processes and so on. So I think, but at the end of the day, it's still built on top of a decentralized network. That I think the opportunities to use it in a sovereign way will still be there, even if like privacy guarantees may turn out to not be as great as thought initially. I think the permissionlessness will still be achievable, and especially for a lot of people around the world who may not be able to afford on-chain fees in the next decades. That may be completely infeasible, and that would still be a huge improvement over all other alternatives. Even other layer 2s like Liquid has a completely different trade-off, and I definitely prefer Lightning to a Liquid model. Even though privacy for outside observers is better on Liquid, I still see a huge problem in the Federation and the just long-term security. I can see the value in jumping in and jumping out, maybe to quickly obfuscate the flow of funds, but for storing wealth and just long term, I think that Lightning will play a bigger role and also an important role.
Yeah, I tend to agree. All right, mate. Well, look, it's been really nice to get to know you a little bit, hear your backstory, and like I say, I'm really pleased to see that you're giving back, and I'm really excited to have you on the next show with Q&A and dig into the monthly updates. Yeah, I mean, just massive respect for coming in and doing as much as you have, as quickly as you have, and for giving back. It really is cool.
It's been an absolute pleasure, man, and thank you to you for welcoming me in and for everything I learned from you and your guests over the last year. That's been amazing, man. So you played a big role in that. Cheers.
That's
man.
really cool to hear. It's awesome to hear that people find value in it, and it's mainly when Q&A comes on, but
No.
we all learn together.
Exactly. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, mate. Well, yeah, we'll speak soon. We'll get it booked in the next couple of days, and yeah, really looking forward to it.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.